Good afternoon. So, first off, I want to ask everybody to pray for God, pray to God. Pray to God for the victims of human trafficking, pray to God for the investigators who have to investigate it, and pray for all the victim advocates, all the NGOs that work with them. Some of the things we're going to talk about today is horrific. I'm not going to get explicit because that's not the point, but the one thing is to get the message out there of what's going on. So I'm going to discuss several things today because I know human trafficking is a large topic that people want to talk about, see what we're doing about it. And the one thing we're going to talk about a case that is absolutely horrendous that happened right here in our community. So the one thing is, I know there's a lot of people that sit in their houses and they go on social media. They go on these sites that, they're neighborhood sites, and they talk about different things going on. So the one thing is I want to explain from the sheriff's office perspective so you have a clear understanding. If you're on those neighborhood sites and they're talking about human trafficking, and I know it, I remember seeing it, I live in the community, I know it, people come up to me and they say, I heard that somebody was human trafficked and they were kidnapped from this shopping location or from that location. I promise you, if God forbid something like that happened, you would have the largest police presence you've ever seen. And you would have deputies, and we'd be holding a press conference then. So when you go on these sites, look, there's enough things to be fearful enough, and we're going to talk about some of those things to be fearful enough. But there's so many things out there, but please, always seek the truth. If somebody says, I heard this is what's going on, I heard that, ask them, did you notify the sheriff's office? Ask them that, because a lot of people like to post things, but we want to know the truth, and we're going to go save people. So that's the one thing I want to talk about is making sure people understand that, when you go on these sites, let's get to the truth, let's get to the reality, because there's already enough fear and anxiety out there, but really if we can just use our power to go save people together, that makes us more efficient. The other one is, I want to talk about some organizational things that we've done within the sheriff's office. Now, we don't have many people in the sheriff's office, and when we utilize them, we're going to utilize them to the best of the ability. And so what we're doing is pulling people from two different areas. So we had a cybercrimes area. So the cybercrime area is what you can imagine. It was the area where people are going out there and, unfortunately they have to go download material that was sent to them through tips. And that's how we find those that are involved in child pornography, and we're able to make those arrests. So that's why I say pray for them, because those detectives, it's horrendous what they have to sit there for hours and hours and go through. But then we also brought the missing persons unit together, the three, them into this unit together, to partnering together, because we're finding more and more, the cases where sextortion is growing. That is a crime that is absolutely growing. The other one too is we find out that there's a lot of young girls, unfortunately, that are getting caught up in this. They're also getting caught up because of social media. They go on their cell phones, they're meeting people, and they're being taken away, and it's like a runaway situation, and even through our foster care system. So that's the one thing I will tell people. There's great people that are involved in foster care, but there's a lot of kids that are in that foster care system that, for them, they get caught up, and they're looking for somebody that, they believe truly loves them. And so that's why we merge these two units together. We're calling it the Missing and Exploited Persons Unit. And what we're trying to do is put resources together, working with partners to try to find these kids, to try to go out there, because these kids are running away. We have numerous cases where kids are going to some of the cities within the Tampa Bay region. They're prostituting themselves. They're getting themselves caught up in situations. So that's why we're putting those units together to try to make the efforts better to try to rescue these people. The other one too is we had a meeting this morning with Homeland Security. We're putting 2 more people in our task force with them to combat human trafficking. And so, we talked about what the realities are and what the fallacies are within human trafficking in the Tampa Bay region, but it's critical for us to go out there and to go save these kids. To put people, because there are organized rings that are out there throughout the state of Florida, throughout the nation, that are involved in these type of things. So one of the things for us is that we want to partner with Homeland Security, because the more we work together, the better off we are with our resources. The other thing I want to talk about, which I'm very proud of, is that the Pasco Sheriff's Office is starting a volunteer unit called Operation Phoenix. Operation Phoenix is finding volunteers that we will do background checks on and we will train within the Pasco Sheriff's Office. And what they're going to be doing is partnering with our detectives and working with them, going through open source information. So, why is this important? It's critically important because, as I mentioned, you get a lot of young teenage girls that run away. They go online, they go onto a social media site, they believe they've fallen in love with somebody who's their age, and what they find out is that that person's not their age. What they find out is that that person is now using them for sex, selling them. And so Operation Phoenix, using our volunteers, getting resources, because that's the one thing we lack is resources, but we need our community. We're going to ask for volunteers, but they're going to be out there helping people solve these crimes, find these young girls, save them, because they're still using social media. So from our standpoint, if we can have more eyes, more people watching, going through, finding them on social media sites, we're more fortunate and we'll be more effective in finding them. So the one thing is there's a site called joinpso.com. So if anybody's interested in volunteering, joinpso.com. That is something that, it's unique. We don't know anybody else is doing something like this, but it's just a great partnership that, we hope will grow and we will hope will save lives. So as I go back to, I don't usually do too many stories about one particular case, but this case is absolutely horrendous. We have zero tolerance in this county, and there's things I'm definitely holding back on the camera because there's people that you don't need to hear these things. Just know that the detectives, like Detective Dominguez and the teams that are out there tracking these horrible people down. And when you read it, you're going to realize that this suspect, if found guilty, or anybody who's found guilty of these crimes, there's no crime or punishment on earth that is sufficient to what they do. There's only one judge that will ultimately give the ultimate decision and the ultimate judgment. But these people should not be walking our community. And we have zero tolerance. And I will get more exposed because I'm trying to be calm now, but it's going to get worse. So the suspect's name is Jean Cabero Arias. Date of birth is 9/5/78. So I'll begin this investigation by thanking the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, NCMEC. So NCMEC is an unbelievable organization. They got information with KIC, were able to provide the Pasco Sheriff's Office information about this horrible individual and what he was doing. From that point, the detectives then got to the case and they took the lead and they realized that what he was doing was having conversations online with several other individuals. And there is a young child, elementary school age, not middle school age, elementary school age, that was in his care and custody. And he started to go further into fantasizing, telling these individuals about his fantasies about this child in his care and custody. It was a familiar relationship. Then he starts talking about how he showers with this individual in his care and custody. Then he goes into, but I haven't done anything yet except touch her, which is still bad, still deserves, but then he goes on and starts telling them what I would like you to do, and I'm offering her to anybody who wants to have her, to train her, so that when I fill out my fantasies, she's already trained for me. So he is offering these men to gang rape a juvenile, an elementary school juvenile. This individual was pushing this child out there and sending photos. Now the photos were her in a bathing suit, different things, but clearly the intent was for him to push it out there. The individuals that were involved in this case, who knows how far they would have gone. But I thank our detectives because they were able to stop this before anything could have happened to this young girl. The other individuals were out of New Jersey, Alabama, Illinois, and the United Kingdom. So we already have sent information to those jurisdictions to go investigate this. The suspect was arrested for human trafficking involving a minor in his custody. And the solicitation was the fact that the juvenile was in his care and custody and offering her up for sexual favors. This is where, I get it. People are watching this at home. I can't say what I want to say because there's a lot of foul language. But the death penalty is never good enough for individuals who are arrested for this. I know it's a life charge, but there's worse things that these people deserve. because what these children have to go through is horrendous. The message to call to the people too is, in our community, is watch what's on your phone. Watch what is, what your daughters, and I apologize, there's boys that get involved in stuff like this, but mostly for what we see as daughters and kids and girls. We recently had a case with the federal partners, and I can't go much into it because this federal case is it's their case, but it started in Pasco County, and we asked them for assistance. We had a young girl in Dade City. So this young girl in Dade City was going back and forth with an individual that she thought was somebody his age, and so she ran away from home. We found out that he picked her up from South Carolina. Through the investigation, we tracked him back in South Carolina. Thank you to our federal partners and local partners up there. They kicked in the door and they arrested this individual. Unfortunately, you can imagine what was already done to this juvenile. And this turns out he's an illegal alien. And so, as I said, I'm not going to go much further into this investigation, but this is what we deal with locally. These are the things that break your hearts when you hear them. But these are the things from our standpoint that we need your assistance, one, to work with your kids and talk to them. Because there's so many people out there that are, lying to these kids, saying that, oh, I'm your boyfriend, I fell in love with you. Well, they turn out they're an adult. And love is not selling somebody else to have sex for money. That's not love. The other one too is sextortion. We're seeing a growing amount of sextortion cases where people think, oh, they're my age, I'm just going to send a picture back and forth. Well, when you send that nude picture of yourself to somebody that you think is your age, that person's not. And then what that person does is turn around and say, well, if you don't want me posting this to all your friends on social media, you're going to have to do X, Y, and Z, whether it's financial gain or doing something else sexually. That is a growing issue that we're seeing more and more. So please have that, and I get it, it's going to be tough for some people. It's an awkward conversation sometimes with parents, but you better have this awkward conversation, because if you don't, the most horrific things are going to happen to your children. They're going to be put in horrible situations. So I'm begging you, please have those conversations. Please talk to your kids, your grandkids, because you know what? I get it. Math homework's important. English homework's important. Those things, they are important. But what can define their life is being the victim of a crime, of a sextortion, human trafficking. Those are the things, it's better the kid gets a C on a test than it is to fall victim to these type of crimes. And the other message is to all these criminals out there, we will hunt your ass down. If you think that you are going to human traffic any of our children, you're going to exploit any of our children, there is good and evil in this world. Good will prevail. I promise you, good will prevail. But in the meantime, good will sometimes have to be nasty, and we're going to be tough. And as I said, we will track and hunt your ass down if you think you're going to exploit any kid in our community. So with that being said, Evan? Sorry.
As best you can tell, was this girl in any way harmed physically by either the person, the suspect in this case, or any of the other people he tried to, for lack of a better term, farm around?
Right. So thank God is that I believe because of Kick, because of Nick Mick, we were able to get the information quick enough and to intercede and to go to DCF quick enough to say, hey, there needs to be a plan in place here to protect. There's no evidence right now that he was able to follow through. But as everybody can imagine, in these type of crimes, you don't have to follow through. He already followed through on the crime of soliciting that child out there. So as I said, thank God the child, nothing that we've found so far indicates that that any sexual acts were performed upon her, but the crime against her was that somebody solicited her.
Her status, two more questions. One is her status right now in terms of where the custody she's in, and then also how this tip came in.
Yeah, so the one about her status, through DCF, the State Department of Children and Family, oversees the care and custody now in a safety plan. So they're responsible for the safety plan of her.
She's in DCF custody now.
They're responsible. Yeah, yeah. Okay. They're responsible. I can't. tell them. The other part is how it came in. It came in through Kik and NCMEC. So Kik, the social media site, working with NCMEC. So if you're not familiar with NCMEC, the National Center for, I keep getting it messed up. National Center for Missing Exploited Children. Yeah, appreciate it. So they're the ones that go onto these sites. They have the ability to go out there and they basically can find these conversations that are going on. And so through the ability for them to find these conversations, they then provide to local law enforcement. So that's the one thing. I think this guy's site, it was Dirty Daddy. That's what he was going under on Kik. The one thing is with Kik and NCMEC, you know, the NCMEC's definitely hunting these people down, providing us tips, and they have, through technology, ability to go on, find out what people are talking about, see what they're saying. So that's the other thing too, is don't think you're hiding. You know, there's a man upstairs that's watching everything, but also NCMEC and a lot of non-NGOs, non-government organizations are out there searching the site, looking for people, and they're going to hunt you down too.
Can you tell us any details of the arrest? Was he at home? Was it, did you have to kick the door in, or was he apprehended somewhere else?
I'll let the detective.
So we met at a Publix nearby. We met with the individual at a Publix nearby his home. It was a consensual meetup. I contacted him prior and he met me there.
And what was his reaction?
I think surprised. I think he believed the case had been solved. So I think he was just surprised.
Detective, when you have to see these cases, I mean, obviously the sheriff alluded to it, but like how hard is it seeing this, seeing these children, and you can look straight ahead?
So some of it's tough, doing it day in and day out, but the end result, knowing that potentially you've saved a kid from having to go through something, it makes it worth it.
Was this child in the custody of someone else in that house too that didn't know what was going on, or maybe did know?
So I don't know that I can answer that.
Still part of an ongoing investigation.
When it comes to whether the victim here even knows that this happened, is she aware that this was going on, or were you able to hide this from her because he was just talking about this online with other people?
So best we can tell, the victim is not aware of anything that was going on.
I mean, how thankful are either of you of that, and then B, what are her chances of living a normal life? I mean, it sounds like the worst was avoided here.
So for me, I'm very thankful for that, because it means that she may not be affected, at least explicitly, by it.
Sure, yeah. In terms of living in,
Yeah, so
future.
this goes on, and there's a lot of credit to the people that, when these people have already been victimized, these innocent people have been victimized, their sense of reality is lost. So as for the case of the young girl who left Dade City area to go to South Carolina, she was manipulated. She, feeling that this she thought was a boy, turns out to be a man, was an illegal alien, basically took her, forced her into situations that are horrible. And so how do you take somebody who was basically a hostage, who then has possibly Stockholm syndrome, where they believe this person, oh no, they're my boyfriend, I still love them, but you're trying to, help them to realize reality is that they're not. So in that type of situation where beyond the crime of solicitation, beyond other means of crimes that had occurred, you now had a physical crime that went on, it's hard to get them to come back to what we all know as, a better reality. For them, they believe that this is the real situation. No, that person loves me. I don't know why you took me away from them. I don't know why you arrested them. They don't understand that. This is absolutely a case where we're good. We got the devil off the street. We're glad that this individual is going to be, hopefully, if convicted, spend life in prison. But the other good part of the situation was that the victim of the crime, the physical elements that could have occurred did not occur. And so, only by the blessings of God, they did not, because of the hard work of the detectives working with NCMEC and Kik, this individual was saved. But what a piece of shit, pardon my French. I mean, honestly, that the person you're carrying in custody, you're going to exploit and sell them. And we talk about people that go commit homicides and stuff like that, and they're bad people, and they're going to get their sentences, but this is probably the worst crimes you can imagine, that you take an innocent child not even over the age of 10. And you are going to, offer them up for people to have sex with, to rape. I mean, there's no punishment we can do on earth that would be good enough. I mean, put them in an alligator hole and leave them there for dead. That's the only thing left I can see. But
I don't know if we're gonna get a physical arrest report, but can you just tell us the charges, the specific charges?
But no, there will be a report. Unfortunately, lots can be redacted, but I'll let the detective talk.
Yeah, so the statute will be human trafficking. There's a subsection for a person having custody over a juvenile and offering to sell them.
Is he in the Pasco County Jail right now?
I can't confirm if he's still there, but he was taken there, yes.
Because of the nature of doing this between states and then between countries, is it possible there will be either international, Interpol type charges or charges, federal wire type charges because of this?
So that part is still being investigated.
Yeah, okay. But that's a possibility,
Right.
though, it's fair, right?
Yeah,
Fair to say.
it's a fair statement, and I won't get, and I promise you, we have a sextortion case that we are working right now with HSI, Homeland Security. I promise you there will be a press conference when that one's done, but we are working with them because it goes overseas and it affects young females in our community that were lied to, that kept going down a rabbit hole that was getting worse and worse and worse. And it turns out that the perpetrators are overseas. We're hunting them down. There ain't no doubt about it. This is, we talk about egregious crimes. The one we're talking about today is an egregious crime. This one is an egregious crime. And there's no way that the victims that we have in the Tampa Bay region are the only ones. And they're going to find out what American justice is like.
And then, from the time you got the tip to the time of the arrest, are we talking hours, days, weeks, months?
So the initial tip that we got, our deputies were out there immediately, making sure that the individual who was in the care and custody was safe, working immediately with DCF. The problem is we don't control the whole pipeline. So whether it's working through DCF or state attorney's office, we have a saying, it's called have a sense of urgency in the Pasco Sheriff's Office. Everything we do, we have a sense of urgency because we realize our job is to protect and save the people in our community. So there's no other greater thing that we have to do. And that's why we have a sense of urgency. So, it was bringing those partners along with us, but first priority for us is making sure that this individual is safe, and that's what our deputies did right away.
Was it literally hours from the time you got the tip to the time you got her out of the house?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so from the time that we got the tip, it was roughly a few hours from the time that we got it until we were out at the residence.
And Detective, just to clarify something, you said when you met him at the Publix, he was surprised, he thought the case was solved. What do you mean? You had interviewed him before? Is that what that means?
Yeah, I had made initial contact with him before, so I guess he thought that the criminal investigation was done.
Meaning that he wouldn't be charged,
Correct.
and he lied and tried to pass blame off, or?
So he didn't really speak very much.
Okay.
The one thing I can surmise from the situation was that this individual probably thought, well, I didn't physically follow through with pushing this young child out there to be raped. So, oh, you can't do anything. Well, he's wrong. We can, and we did. So, all right. Appreciate it, everybody. Thank you.